In the heart of a fierce Colorado snowstorm, 5-year-old Charlie Foster heard a desperate cry no one else could. Braving icy winds in his tiny red hat and oversized coat, Charlie found Max, a German shepherd helplessly chained to the railroad tracks, a speeding train approaching through the blinding snow. Would the courage of a child be enough to save his newfound friend? Witness a moment of innocence and bravery so powerful, it melted hearts colder than the storm itself. The quaint mountain town of Pinecrest, Colorado, nestled high among the Rocky Mountains, was known for picturesque views, cozy cabins, and warm, welcoming residents. But tonight, its familiar charm was swallowed by an unrelenting snowstorm. Thick flakes cascaded fiercely from a pitch-black sky, blanketing streets, roofs, and forests in a pristine white silence. Powerful gusts of wind howled through the narrow streets, rattling window panes and shaking snow-laden pine trees. Under the glow of dim streetlights, swirling snowflakes danced chaotically, creating ghostly shapes in the frozen air. Inside a small but inviting cottage, Charlie Foster stood by the living room window, his small face pressed against the frosted glass. Charlie, just 5 years old, was petite but sturdy, with round cheeks flushed red from excitement and tousled golden curls peeking out from beneath his favorite bright red-knitted hat. His wide blue eyes sparkled with innocent wonder as he watched the mesmerizing snowstorm, his breath fogging the window pane. "Charlie, honey, step away from the window. You'll catch a chill," Grace Foster called gently from her cozy armchair. Grace was in her early 30s, with a slender, graceful figure. Her long chestnut hair was neatly tied into a practical ponytail, and her calm brown eyes often conveyed warmth and kindness. As a beloved elementary school teacher in Pinecrest, Grace was known for her patient demeanor and intuitive understanding of children, qualities she effortlessly brought into motherhood. Luke Foster, Charlie's father, entered the living room carrying 2 steaming mugs of hot cocoa. Luke, a former soldier in his mid-30s, possessed an athletic build with broad shoulders, giving him a naturally protective presence. His short brown hair was slightly graying at the temples, a testament to his years of quiet courage. His dark blue eyes, sharp yet gentle, reflected his calm and composed nature. Having served overseas, Luke valued peace, family, and the safety of their snug home more than anything else. Charlie barely heard his mother's warning, captivated by the hypnotic storm outside. But suddenly, his fascination shifted to confusion. His young face tightened with concern as he tilted his head, listening carefully. "Mommy," he whispered, turning to face Grace. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what, sweetheart?" Grace replied absent-mindedly, flipping through a children's book she had brought home from school. Charlie paused, pressing his small palm against the cold glass once more, eyebrows knitted together. "Someone is crying outside. Can't you hear it?" Luke placed the mugs on the coffee table, giving Charlie a gentle smile. "Buddy, no one would be outside on a night like this. It's just the wind making noises." But Charlie shook his head firmly, his expression unusually serious for his tender age. "No, Daddy. It's not the wind. It's someone. I hear him crying." Grace glanced at Luke, concern creeping into her features. Luke shrugged gently, silently indicating it was probably just Charlie's vivid imagination. Charlie had always been imaginative, seeing adventure in everyday things. Yet this time, the little boy's insistence felt different. Charlie stepped away from the window and quickly padded toward the front door. He grabbed his thick blue jacket from a hook on the wall, pulling it on over his cozy pajamas. "We have to help him," he exclaimed earnestly, tugging at the zipper. Grace stood, moving swiftly to her son, gently placing her hands on his small shoulders. "Charlie, sweetheart, it's freezing outside. There's no one out there." The wind chose that moment to howl ferociously, sending chills through the room. And in that brief pause between gusts, all 3 of them heard a faint, unmistakable whimper drifting through the storm. Grace froze, her gaze shifting immediately toward Luke, who stood alert, his military training instinctively kicking in. Luke quickly moved to the window, peering out into the swirling whiteness. That sounded like an animal, he said quietly, brow furrowing in deep concern. No, Daddy, he's crying for help, Charlie repeated, his tiny voice insistent and urgent. His determination shone clearly, beyond any doubts or fear that might have lingered. He tugged firmly at Grace's hand. Please, Mommy. He's scared out there. He needs us. Grace exchanged a quick, worried glance with Luke, silently communicating their parental decision. Luke nodded, already moving to grab his thick parka and flashlight by the door. I'll go check it out quickly, he assured them. You two stay inside, keep warm. But Charlie, with stubborn resolve that surprised both parents, pulled his red knitted hat tighter around his head. I'm coming too. He needs me. Grace hesitated, clearly worried about exposing her young son to the elements. Yet something about Charlie's conviction moved her deeply. After a brief, silent exchange with Luke, she sighed, grabbing her own heavy coat. We'll all go together. Luke opened the door cautiously, immediately blasted by a fierce rush of icy wind and stinging snowflakes. He scooped Charlie effortlessly into his arms, shielding him from the storm, and stepped onto the porch. Grace followed closely behind, huddling into her jacket. The cold was intense, the snow underfoot crunching with every step. Visibility was limited to mere feet ahead, but Charlie's determined gaze searched relentlessly. Over there, he pointed suddenly toward the dim outline of the nearby railroad tracks, which ran along the outskirts of Pinecrest, obscured by drifting snow and darkness. As they approached the tracks, the cry became clearer, definitely animal, but somehow carrying an eerily human note of pain and despair. Luke's flashlight beam finally illuminated the heartbreaking scene ahead. A large German shepherd was lying on the snow-covered tracks, its thick coat matted with snow and ice. The dog's strong body strained hopelessly against a cruel metal chain, binding him tightly to the frozen steel rails. His deep brown eyes, wide with panic, reflected the light as he whimpered pitifully, shivering violently. Charlie squirmed insistently in his father's arms, tears forming instantly as he saw the dog's plight. Luke set him down, and the boy immediately dashed forward, falling to his knees beside the trembling animal. Charlie, careful, Grace called anxiously, but her son seemed completely oblivious to any risk. Gently, Charlie removed his own cherished red hat, placing it carefully around the dog's neck, softly whispering comforting words as if calming a frightened friend. Luke, deeply moved by his son's instinctive compassion, immediately tried loosening the chain, but it held fast, frozen solid in the harsh conditions. Desperation began to creep into Luke's movements, knowing a train was still scheduled to pass that night. Suddenly, from the shadows behind them, a new figure emerged, moving steadily despite the harsh weather. "Need help there?" came a calm, reassuring voice. Sam Cooper stepped into view, a tall, lean man in his early 40s, ruggedly handsome with a weather-beaten face and compassionate gray eyes. His neatly trimmed dark beard was speckled with snowflakes, and his strong, capable hands quickly produced a sturdy pair of bolt cutters. Sam knelt beside the dog, gently reassuring him with experienced hands. "Hey there, Max," he murmured softly, recognizing the animal instantly. "I got you." "Max?" Grace questioned gently, startled by Sam's familiarity. "He's a good boy," Sam explained briefly, focusing on the chain. "Someone did this on purpose." As the bolt cutters snapped through the metal, Max visibly relaxed, pressing himself gratefully against Charlie, who wrapped his small arms protectively around the dog's neck. A distant train whistle echoed hauntingly through the storm, sending chills through everyone present. "Let's get him home," Luke urged firmly, scooping Charlie into his arms again, while Sam helped Max to his shaky feet. Together, they moved quickly back toward the warmth and safety of the foster home. Behind them, the relentless snowstorm continued its wrath. Pinecrest still held firmly within its icy grasp. But within that small cottage, a new warmth had begun to glow, sparked by a child's unwavering compassion, an animal's trust, and the quiet bravery of strangers brought together by fate on a cold winter's night. Charlie clung tightly to Luke's coat as they made their way through the thickening snow, his small heart beating quickly. Max, the German shepherd, limped weakly alongside Sam Cooper, who guided him with gentle encouragement. Sam was tall and lean, his rugged, weathered face partially hidden beneath his snow-dusted beard. His piercing gray eyes were alert yet comforting, a reflection of years spent caring deeply for wounded animals. Sam's deep blue parka and sturdy hiking boots were well used, displaying countless rescues across treacherous terrain. His demeanor was calm but purposeful, bringing immediate reassurance to the frightened dog. As they approached the Foster family home, the blizzard intensified, whipping snowflakes fiercely against their faces. Charlie buried his face into his father's chest, feeling safe despite the brutal conditions. Grace hurried ahead, quickly opening the front door and ushering them inside. Warm air rushed over them, providing instant relief from the freezing temperatures outside. Max stumbled across the threshold, collapsing immediately onto the soft rug near the fireplace. His breathing was shallow, eyes glazed with exhaustion. Charlie immediately wriggled free from Luke's grasp and rushed to the dog's side, placing a small hand gently on Max's thick, snow-matted fur. "He's really cold, Mommy," Charlie said urgently, his round eyes filled with worry. Grace nodded swiftly, fetching several blankets and draping them tenderly over the trembling animal. Charlie's red hat, still wrapped around Max's neck, had grown wet from melted snow, yet its symbolism, childlike innocence and compassion, touched everyone in the room deeply. Luke knelt beside the dog, gently examining the cruel wounds on his neck where the chain had rubbed raw. Sam, having removed his snow-covered boots, approached carefully with a medical kit he'd retrieved from his vehicle outside. With practiced efficiency, Sam began cleaning the dog's wounds, his hands steady and assured despite the storm raging outside. "What kind of person would do something like this?" Grace whispered, eyes darkened by distress as she stroked Charlie's hair soothingly. Sam's jaw tightened, his normally calm face betraying rare anger. "Unfortunately, someone heartless, someone like Owen Grady," he said quietly, his voice thick with suppressed fury. "Owen Grady?" Luke echoed, his voice cautious yet firm. Sam hesitated briefly before continuing. "Grady was a colleague of mine years ago. Once a respected dog trainer, but now he's different. Ruthless. After an accident involving one of his dogs, he changed. His methods turned brutal. Max was one of his victims, trained rigorously for security purposes. But Max refused to become aggressive, refused Grady's orders to attack without reason. That defiance is likely why Owen left him chained to the tracks as punishment." A heavy silence settled over the room. Even Charlie sensed the tension, his small hand clutching Max's paw tightly. Outside, hidden amidst shadows cast by drifting snow, a figure silently watched the Foster home. Owen Grady stood tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a long black coat. A dark woolen cap covered his prematurely graying hair, and his hard, piercing eyes stared unblinking at the warm glow emanating from the cottage windows. Owen had always carried himself with an intimidating presence, his face marred slightly by a thin scar across his left cheek, a permanent reminder of the incident that transformed him from respected trainer to feared outcast. His mind now consumed by bitterness and resentment, Owen viewed Max's survival as a personal insult, a loose end he intended to tie up soon. Back inside, Max's breathing grew steadier under Sam's care. His large brown eyes opened wider, taking in his surroundings cautiously. When they met Charlie's earnest gaze, an unspoken understanding passed between them, instantly forging a bond stronger than mere circumstance. "Can we keep him, Daddy?" Charlie asked suddenly, his voice hopeful yet unsure. His parents exchanged a brief glance. Luke considered carefully before responding gently. "Let's focus on getting him healthy first, buddy. He needs rest." Grace nodded in agreement, softly adding, "But he's safe now, thanks to you, Charlie. Your kindness gave him strength." Charlie beamed proudly, his eyes brightening as he carefully adjusted the blankets around Max. "I heard him. He called me," the boy said confidently, his innocent words somehow deeply profound. The room fell silent once again, each adult reflecting privately on the extraordinary circumstances of Max's rescue and the inexplicable connection Charlie seemed to share with the dog. Hours passed slowly as the storm outside gradually weakened. Luke and Grace prepared warm drinks, silently thankful their ordeal had ended safely. Charlie refused to leave Max's side, eventually falling asleep curled next to the dog, his small frame nestled beneath a warm quilt. Grace watched lovingly, feeling a warmth in her heart despite lingering anxiety about Owen Grady's looming threat. Sam stood near the window, his experienced eyes carefully scanning the shadows outside. Although he saw nothing, instinctively he felt an uneasy sense of being watched. "We should remain vigilant," Sam said quietly, turning to Luke. "Grady won't give up easily." Luke nodded solemnly, aware of the seriousness in Sam's tone. "We'll be ready. But tonight, let's focus on healing," he said firmly, determined to protect the family he cherished deeply. Meanwhile, at the edge of town, a small figure braved the storm to deliver supplies. Jenna Martinez, a local veterinarian known for her gentle spirit and unwavering dedication, trudged determinedly through snowdrifts toward Sam's home. Petite and soft-spoken, Jenna had warm, kind eyes and shoulder-length dark hair peeking beneath her thick woolen scarf. She had worked alongside Sam for years, forming a quiet yet strong friendship built on mutual respect and shared passion for animal welfare. Jenna was concerned when Sam had failed to answer her calls earlier and had decided to ensure he had everything he needed. Finding his house empty and knowing Sam's habits well, Jenna surmised he'd been called out for an emergency. Noticing his tracks leading toward the Fosters, she followed instinctively, trusting her friend's judgment implicitly. Now, nearing their cottage, she saw the silhouette of a man standing unnaturally still outside their window. A sudden chill ran through Jenna, sensing danger emanating from the stranger's posture. Her heart racing, Jenna quietly retreated, unnoticed by Owen Grady, and hurried towards the sheriff's office. Her quiet life as Pinecrest veterinarian had never prepared her for confrontation, but she was determined to protect her friends. Back in the foster home, Max's breathing had stabilized. He stirred gently, carefully licking Charlie's sleeping face, eliciting a sleepy giggle from the boy. Sam watched with satisfaction, feeling an immense sense of relief and gratitude that their rescue had succeeded. He glanced at Luke and Grace, offering a reassuring smile. "I'll stay here tonight," he offered, his voice gentle yet protective. "Just in case." Luke placed a comforting hand on Sam's shoulder. "We appreciate it, Sam. You're always welcome here." Outside, the final gusts of the storm quieted, leaving Pinecrest buried in glistening, untouched snow. But beneath its peaceful beauty lay an undercurrent of unease, the shadow of Owen Grady's presence lingering ominously. Yet within the warmth of the foster home, hope blossomed quietly. Max, comforted and safe, felt Charlie's small heartbeat against his fur and understood he had finally found a place he belonged. Charlie dreamed contentedly, unaware yet profoundly aware, his heart connected irrevocably to his newfound companion. In those quiet hours before dawn, none of them yet realized that the night's events were only the beginning of an unexpected journey, one that would test their courage, strengthen their bonds, and reveal the extraordinary power of kindness and compassion amidst darkness and fear. Sunlight gently pierced through frosted windows, illuminating the cozy living room of the Foster family home. Max lay curled comfortably on a thick blanket near the glowing fireplace, his deep brown eyes now brighter, healthier, but carrying the shadows of past pains. Beside him, Charlie sat cross-legged, gently stroking Max's fur with an innocent tenderness only a child could offer. Charlie's golden curls bounced softly with each movement, and his joyful giggles filled the room. Luke and Grace watched fondly from the kitchen doorway, their hearts warmed by the newfound bond between their son and the gentle canine. Sam Cooper stood by the fireplace, observing Max thoughtfully, sipping a cup of steaming coffee. His rugged face softened, revealing lines of quiet sorrow. He knew the depths of suffering Max had endured under Owen Grady, and the guilt he carried for not intervening sooner haunted him. Sam had always considered himself calm and collected, but Owen's cruelty deeply unsettled him, casting long shadows on his otherwise steady nature. Breaking the comfortable silence, Luke spoke gently. "Sam, you mentioned last night that Max was a special dog, trained for security. Can you tell us more?" Sam hesitated briefly, setting his coffee cup down slowly before responding. Max was more than just a security dog. He was trained for highly specialized tasks, search and rescue, protection of vulnerable people, even working alongside police. He's intelligent, loyal, and highly empathetic. Owen once was among the best trainers in the business before he changed. Grace moved closer, concern evident in her expressive brown eyes. What happened with Owen exactly? What turned him into someone so cruel? Sam sighed deeply, sinking into an armchair near the fire. About 5 years ago, Owen lost his own dog, Jasper, a Belgian Malinois he'd raised from a puppy and trained meticulously. Jasper was highly skilled, but developed behavioral issues due to Owen's increasingly harsh methods. One day, Jasper unexpectedly attacked someone Owen cared about, a close friend named Matthew Harris. Matthew survived, but the friendship didn't. Jasper was put down, and Owen blamed himself. He became bitter, obsessively determined to never fail again. He believed strict discipline, even cruelty, was the only way to ensure obedience. Charlie, still petting Max gently, looked up with innocent confusion. "But Max is good. He wouldn't hurt anyone," he said softly, pressing his small cheek against the dog's fur affectionately. Sam smiled warmly at Charlie, nodding in agreement. "You're right, Charlie. Max always resisted Owen's cruelty. He understood right from wrong better than most humans. Even when Owen pushed him to his limits, Max remained gentle, showing compassion rather than aggression." As Sam spoke, Max's eyes drifted closed, memories flooding his mind, unwanted yet undeniable. Within those memories, he saw himself younger, healthier, more agile. Owen Grady stood tall and stern, barking commands. Owen had always been physically imposing, with broad shoulders and muscular arms that radiated strength and authority. But where once Owen's voice had been firm yet gentle, it grew increasingly harsh and unforgiving after Jasper's incident. Max vividly remembered the bitter taste of punishment, the chilling sting of chains that restricted his movement and freedom, and the cold isolation of nights spent alone, waiting and hoping for a kind word or gentle touch that never came. But even amidst these dark recollections, one bright memory stood starkly apart. It was a rainy night a year earlier, when Owen had demanded Max attack a stranger who had stumbled mistakenly onto his property. The intruder, a frightened teenager named Liam Harper, had wide, terrified eyes and trembling hands raised in submission. Max had approached obediently at first, but stopped short, sensing no danger, no threat, only fear. Instead, he had gently approached Liam, nudging him reassuringly rather than attacking. Owen, enraged by this perceived disobedience, punished Max harshly, isolating him in freezing conditions. Yet through that ordeal, Max never regretted choosing compassion. The memory dissolved, returning Max to the present warmth of the foster home. Max raised his head slightly, looking directly at Sam as if silently thanking him for understanding, for sharing his story with these kind-hearted people. Grace knelt beside Charlie, placing a comforting hand on her son's shoulder. "Sam, did anyone ever confront Owen about his methods? Surely someone knew what he was doing." Sam shook his head sadly. Owen was respected in the field, his reputation shielding him. People either feared him or chose not to see. I left his organization quietly, hoping someday to reveal his actions. But after I left, he moved frequently, avoiding scrutiny. Pinecrest is just his latest stop. Max escaped recently, which is probably why Owen tried to eliminate him. He sees Max as a risk, evidence of his cruelty. Luke's brow furrowed with resolve. Then we need to ensure Max stays safe. Owen can't continue harming innocent animals. At that moment, there was a firm knock at the front door. Grace quickly rose to answer, opening the door to reveal Jenna Martinez, Pinecrest dental veterinarian. Jenna was small-framed and softly spoken, with shoulder-length dark hair framing a kind face. Her eyes sparkled with determination despite obvious worry. "I'm sorry to intrude," Jenna began hurriedly, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I saw someone suspicious outside your home last night. Tall, intimidating, wearing dark clothes. He was watching your house, carefully." Grace's face paled slightly, turning toward Luke, whose expression grew serious. "That sounds like Owen." Jenna nodded, stepping inside cautiously. "I reported it to Sheriff Wallace. He said he'll come by later, but I thought you should know immediately." Charlie instinctively moved closer to Max, sensing tension but not fully understanding its source. Max gently placed his head protectively in Charlie's lap, his soulful eyes alert and watchful once more. "Thank you, Jenna," Luke replied sincerely. "We're grateful for your quick thinking." Sam rose slowly, his features hardening with resolve. "Owen won't stop until he gets what he wants. But we have the truth, and we have Max. He deserves better." Jenna smiled softly, placing a comforting hand on Sam's arm. "You're not alone in this, Sam. We all care deeply for Max and want to help." The group shared quiet looks of solidarity, recognizing the unspoken commitment among them. They were prepared to face whatever threats Owen might pose, determined to protect Max and ensure justice. As the adult spoke, Charlie gently whispered to Max, "You're safe now, Max. We won't let him hurt you again. I promise." Max gazed at Charlie with deep trust and affection, feeling for the first time that perhaps his long ordeal had led him to this moment, this family, this chance at a new life filled with kindness. Outside, hidden by towering snow-laden pines, Owen Grady leaned silently against a tree, his face contorted by bitterness and rage. He observed Jenna's hurried entrance, understanding the increasing difficulty of retrieving Max quietly. But Owen's determination remained unshaken, his heart hardened by years of self-imposed isolation and resentment. To him, Max was property, proof of his professional credibility, and no one would keep him from reclaiming it. Within the warm embrace of the foster home, however, Max felt something stronger than fear, something more powerful than Owen's cruelty. He felt hope, gentle yet unwavering. His painful memories, although ever-present, now stood alongside new, brighter ones, crafted by the small hands and huge heart of Charlie Foster. And within Max stirred an unspoken vow to protect this child who had selflessly protected him. The morning sun painted the snowy landscape outside Pinecrest with a deceptive calmness, masking the tense atmosphere within the Foster household. Max was beginning to show signs of recovery, his fur regaining its healthy sheen and his movements growing steadier. Charlie hardly left Max's side, affectionately calling him his best friend forever. Grace watched their growing bond, a gentle smile on her face despite the persistent worry that lingered in her heart. Luke paced restlessly, glancing out the window intermittently, his military instincts heightening his vigilance. Sam Cooper stood near the fireplace, staring thoughtfully into the flames. His rugged face, usually calm, showed lines of worry. Owen's presence the night before weighed heavily on him, rekindling memories of a friendship lost and trust betrayed. A firm knock at the door startled everyone. Luke swiftly moved to open it, revealing Sheriff Wallace standing firmly on the porch, snow clinging to his worn leather boots. Wallace was a sturdy man in his late 50s, tall and broad-shouldered, with thick silver hair beneath a sheriff's hat. His blue eyes held the steady assurance of years enforcing justice, tempered by compassion and understanding. "Morning, Sheriff." Luke greeted him warily, stepping back to let the older man inside. Wallace nodded, removing his hat politely. "Good morning, Luke. Sorry for disturbing you folks, but we've got reports of suspicious activity around here. Jenna Martinez stopped by last night, mentioned Owen Grady. Figured I'd check in personally." Sam stepped forward, expression grim. "Owen's here, Sheriff. He's been watching the house." Wallace sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose thoughtfully. "We've dealt with Grady before in other towns. He always manages to slip away before any charges stick. We need solid evidence to take him down for good." Charlie, overhearing the sheriff's words, wrapped his small arms protectively around Max. "Max won't go with him," he declared, his voice firm despite its childish timbre. "He's staying with us." Wallace offered a gentle smile, acknowledging Charlie's resolve. "Don't worry, son. We'll make sure he stays safe." The conversation was suddenly interrupted by the distant rumble of an engine approaching. Luke immediately moved to the window, eyes narrowing as a black pickup truck parked near their property. A figure emerged, tall, broad-shouldered, unmistakably Owen Grady. Owen approached the house with measured steps, his presence exuding quiet menace. His thick dark coat emphasized his muscular build, and his cold eyes fixated fiercely on the doorway. Before Luke could step out, Sam placed a steady hand on his friend's shoulder. "I'll deal with this," he said calmly, stepping outside. Sam confronted Owen midway, snow crunching beneath his boots. "You shouldn't be here, Owen," Sam warned firmly. Owen smiled coldly, a humorless gesture. "I'm just here to reclaim what's rightfully mine, Cooper." "He isn't property," Sam countered sharply. "Max deserves better." Owen's eyes darkened dangerously. "You think you're better than me? You were my friend once, Sam. You used to understand that discipline breeds obedience." Sam shook his head slowly, voice steady but compassionate. "I was your friend when you valued kindness, Owen. You changed. Let Max live peacefully." The door behind Sam opened cautiously. Grace stepped outside, placing a gentle but firm hand on Sam's shoulder, Luke following protectively behind her. "Max is part of our family now," Grace stated clearly. "He stays." Owen's gaze shifted to Grace, his jaw tightening visibly. "Family? It's a dog, an animal bred and trained for obedience and service. Sentiment won't change that." Before anyone else could respond, Charlie appeared suddenly, defiantly holding Max's leash, his small stature dwarfed by the dog's protective presence beside him. "Max is my friend," Charlie declared loudly, blue eyes wide with determination. "He doesn't belong to you anymore." Owen stared incredulously at the child, momentarily taken aback by the boy's fearless assertion. His eyes flickered briefly with uncertainty before hardening again. "Be careful, boy. Loyalty is easily misplaced." "That's enough, Owen," Sheriff Wallace interrupted sternly, stepping forward from the doorway. "You've made your point clear, but threatening a family won't be tolerated. I suggest you leave." Owen's eyes flickered between Wallace and Sam, anger barely contained. "This isn't over," he promised quietly, backing toward his truck. "You'll regret crossing me, all of you." The group watched silently as Owen climbed into his truck, engine revving aggressively before disappearing down the snowy road. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the gentle whimpers from Max, sensing the tension. Sheriff Wallace turned back to the group, his expression serious. "Keep an eye out. Owen's dangerous when cornered." Luke nodded grimly, placing a comforting hand on Charlie's shoulder. "We'll be careful, Sheriff." "Thank you." As Wallace departed, Sam remained outside, staring down the now empty road thoughtfully. Grace joined him, her calm presence easing his tension slightly. "Owen wasn't always like this, was he?" Sam sighed deeply, shaking his head. "No. Once, he genuinely loved his dogs. Jasper's tragedy changed him entirely. He lost faith, first in himself, then in everything." Grace touched Sam's arm gently. "But it didn't change you, Sam, and it didn't break Max's spirit either." Inside, Charlie quietly reassured Max, stroking the dog's head gently. "I won't let the bad man take you, Max. I promise." Max nuzzled closer, sensing the child's unwavering sincerity. Across town, Jenna Martinez was organizing supplies in her small veterinary clinic, unable to shake her unease. A sudden tap on the glass startled her, as she turned quickly, relief flooding her features as she recognized Liam Harper standing hesitantly at the door. Liam, now 18, was tall and slender with sandy blonde hair falling messily over earnest blue eyes. He carried himself awkwardly but kindly, still haunted by the memory of his encounter with Max and Owen years ago. That traumatic experience deeply shaped Liam's shy, cautious demeanor, fueling a quiet determination to help animals in need. "Liam, come in," Jenna invited warmly, sensing the boy's nervousness. "I heard Owen's back," Liam said softly, eyes downcast. "I want to help. Max saved me once. It's my turn." Jenna smiled warmly, impressed by his courage. "We could use your support. Max's situation isn't easy, and Owen won't back down quietly." "I know," Liam nodded resolutely. "But I won't run away this time." Back at the foster home, evenings settled gently over the household. Luke secured all doors and windows carefully, unwilling to risk their safety. Grace tucked Charlie into bed, reassuring him with soft words. "Max will always be here with you," she promised gently. As the house grew quiet, Sam lingered thoughtfully by the fire, troubled but determined. He knew Owen's threat was real, yet his heart felt bolstered by the strength and kindness of those around him. Outside, hidden by shadows, Owen watched the home from a distance, bitterness darkening his soul. He saw in a foster household everything he'd lost: warmth, kindness, love, and it fueled his resentment further. Owen refused to accept defeat, vowing silently to reclaim Max at any cost, unable to see how far he'd drifted from the good man he once was. Inside, Max settled comfortably at the foot of Charlie's bed, his breathing steady and calm. Despite the lingering danger, a newfound peace enveloped him, born from trust and unconditional love. Charlie's gentle hand rested protectively on Max's fur, a symbol of their unbreakable bond. Neither dog nor boy fully grasped the depth of Owen's obsession or the storm looming ahead, but in that quiet moment, their friendship proved stronger than fear, ready to face whatever darkness returned. As darkness fell over Pinecrest, the sky grew ominous once again, heavy clouds bringing with them a fierce snowstorm that blanketed the town in a thick veil of white. Sam Cooper stood by his kitchen table, sifting carefully through stacks of old photographs, handwritten notes, and worn documents spread before him. Each item was evidence meticulously collected over the years, proof of Owen Grady's cruelty and abuse toward animals he had supposedly trained. Sam's rugged hands trembled slightly as he reached for a particularly damning photograph, a haunting image of Max chained tightly, his body emaciated and eyes dull with suffering. Guilt twisted painfully in Sam's chest. He had waited too long to act, but now determination hardened his resolve. Sam gathered the documents swiftly into a thick folder, pulling on his thick winter coat. Just as he reached the front door, his phone buzzed urgently. It was Jenna Martinez. "Sam, Liam and I are heading your way." She spoke quickly, worry evident in her voice. "Owen's been spotted near your house again." "Thanks for the warning, Jenna," Sam replied, feeling a surge of protectiveness. "Meet me at the sheriff's office. It's time to end this." At the Foster household, the wind howled outside as Charlie stared anxiously out the window, watching snowflakes swirl violently through the night. Beside him, Max sat alert, his eyes focused intensely outward, sensing danger lurking close by. Charlie turned to Max, gently placing his small hand around the dog's thick neck. "We'll be okay," Charlie whispered bravely, trying to reassure himself as much as his friend. Meanwhile, outside the Foster residence, Owen Grady moved silently through the shadows, the harsh blizzard masking his presence. His cold eyes scanned the home, observing the locked doors and securely shuttered windows. Owen's heart was hardened by bitterness, his mind singularly obsessed with reclaiming what he believed belonged solely to him, Max. With practiced stealth, Owen circled to the back porch, his movements precise and controlled. Silently, he picked the lock on the back door and eased it open, slipping unnoticed into the warm interior. His heart beat with a dark thrill as he crept toward the living room, where Max lay protectively near Charlie, who had momentarily drifted asleep. Max sensed Owen instantly, rising to his feet with a low, menacing growl, hackles raised. Owen's jaw tightened angrily at the dog's defiance. "Quiet, Max," he commanded sharply, advancing toward the animal. "You're coming with me." Charlie jolted awake, eyes wide with fear as he saw Owen looming dangerously over Max. "Leave him alone." Charlie shouted defiantly, his small voice shaking yet courageous. "Stay out of this, boy." Owen snarled impatiently, grabbing Max forcefully by the collar, ignoring the dog's struggles and Charlie's pleading cries. Desperate, Charlie lunged forward, but Owen shoved him roughly aside, knocking him gently but firmly onto the carpeted floor. "Max!" Charlie cried, tears filling his eyes as he watched helplessly. Owen pulled Max harshly toward the back door, disappearing quickly into the blizzard. Charlie, driven by an instinctive surge of bravery, jumped up, grabbing his small red coat and knitted red hat from the coat hook by the door. Without hesitation, he plunged recklessly into the storm, determined to follow Owen's faint footprints in the snow. Luke and Grace heard the commotion moments too late, rushing downstairs in panic only to discover both Max and Charlie missing. "Charlie!" Grace called frantically, her voice filled with anguish as she stared at the open door and swirling snow. Luke immediately dialed Sheriff Wallace, desperation heavy in his voice. "Owen has taken Max, and Charlie is gone too. Please hurry." At the sheriff's office, Sam had just laid the evidence folder on Sheriff Wallace's desk when the urgent call came in. Wallace stood swiftly, his usually calm face tense with concern. Jenna and Liam, standing nearby, exchanged worried glances as the sheriff relayed Luke's message. Liam stepped forward hesitantly, his voice quiet but determined. "I'll help find them. I know how Owen thinks. He always goes back to the same place." Sheriff Wallace nodded decisively. "All right, let's move quickly. This storm won't make things easier." Meanwhile, Charlie stumbled blindly through deepening snow, his small boots sinking into drifts. His breath formed small, hurried clouds before him, his small body shivering uncontrollably, yet he pressed onward, driven by love and loyalty. He clutched tightly onto a flashlight he'd taken from home, its weak beam barely illuminating his path, yet enough to follow the tracks ahead. Owen, dragging Max roughly, reached an isolated wooden barn at the edge of town. The dilapidated structure was once used for livestock, but had stood abandoned for years. Owen thrust Max inside, chaining him to an iron pole embedded deeply in the frozen earth. Max whimpered softly, his eyes searching desperately for a way out. "Maybe you'll finally learn obedience now," Owen growled bitterly, tightening the chain around Max's neck. Suddenly, the barn door creaked open. Owen spun around sharply, stunned to see Charlie standing bravely, flashlight shaking in his tiny grip. "Let Max go," Charlie demanded, his voice trembling yet surprisingly forceful for a child so small. Owen stared in disbelief, anger rising dangerously. "You shouldn't have come, kid," he warned coldly. Charlie stepped closer, his innocent face determined despite his fear. "He's my best friend. You can't hurt him anymore." Outside, headlights pierced the swirling snow. Sheriff Wallace, Sam, Jenna, Liam, and the Fosters emerged quickly, their silhouettes framed by headlights and flashlights. "It's over, Owen," Wallace commanded firmly, his deep voice echoing authoritatively. Trapped, Owen's expression twisted into bitter rage. He reached out suddenly, grabbing Charlie's small arm roughly. "Don't come any closer," he shouted desperately. Sam stepped forward carefully, raising his hands calmly. "Owen, let him go. This isn't who you are." Owen hesitated, the pressure of years of resentment colliding with lingering fragments of humanity buried deeply within him. He saw Charlie's tearful yet defiant expression and the loyalty shining in Max's eyes, memories of Jasper flooding painfully back. In that moment of distraction, Max summoned his remaining strength, lunging fiercely at Owen's leg, teeth gripping tightly. Owen yelped in pain, releasing Charlie instantly. Sheriff Wallace moved swiftly, restraining Owen securely as Max limped protectively toward Charlie, shielding the boy gently with his wounded body. Charlie hugged Max tightly, sobbing softly into his thick fur. "You're okay now, Max," he whispered gratefully, relief flooding his small frame. Sam knelt beside Charlie, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You did great, Charlie," he praised softly, his eyes filled with pride. Owen, defeated and handcuffed by Sheriff Wallace, stared emptily at the snow-covered ground, understanding finally dawning. The cruelty he'd perpetuated had brought him nothing but emptiness and loss. Luke and Grace embraced Charlie and Max lovingly, grateful tears streaming down their faces. Jenna tended gently to Max's wounds, her calm presence comforting. Liam watched silently, deeply moved by Charlie's courage and Max's unwavering loyalty, inspired anew to heal from his own past trauma. As they slowly walked back together through the calming storm, the town lights guiding their way home, Sam knew justice had finally prevailed. Charlie's innocent bravery had rekindled hope, ensuring Max's safety and giving everyone involved a second chance at peace. Above, the storm gradually subsided, leaving behind quiet tranquility and the gentle promise of healing. Through darkness and adversity, friendship and courage had triumphed, forever uniting Charlie and Max in an unbreakable bond forged by bravery and love. The blizzard raged ferociously, blanketing Pinecrest in an impenetrable veil of white. The abandoned barn, battered by icy winds, creaked menacingly. Inside, Owen Grady sat defeated and restrained, his broad shoulders slumped in weary resignation. Sheriff Wallace, vigilant and calm as always, watched him silently, his hand never straying far from his holster. Sam Cooper stood near the doorway, his expression softened by relief but still clouded with lingering sadness for a friendship lost. Max lay protectively by Charlie's side, the German shepherd's strong body shielding the little boy from the bitter cold seeping through cracks in the barn walls. Charlie, shivering despite the comforting presence of his beloved dog, pressed his small face into Max's thick fur, trying to find warmth. The fierce wind outside battered the barn relentlessly, seeming to mock their precarious sanctuary. Luke Foster paced anxiously, eyes fixed on his son and Max, heart filled with guilt and fear for allowing such danger to reach his family. Grace placed a reassuring hand gently on his shoulder, her quiet strength providing solace. Her calm presence soothed him, reinforcing their unity and shared resilience. Sheriff Wallace checked the weather forecast on his radio, concern etched deeply into his rugged features. "Storm won't be letting up soon," he announced gravely. "We need to get everyone back safely before conditions worsen." Suddenly, an eerie groan echoed above them. Sam's head snapped upward, eyes widening with alarm as he saw the wooden beams of the old roof shaking under the storm's intensity. "The roof won't hold much longer," he shouted urgently. "We have to get out now." Luke moved swiftly to pick up Charlie, carefully lifting his son into his arms. Grace quickly took off her own heavy scarf, wrapping it tenderly around Max's trembling body, knowing the brave dog was already exhausted from his earlier injuries and ordeal. Sheriff Wallace firmly grasped Owen's arm, ready to escort him through the snowstorm. But just as the group reached the doorway, a thunderous crack split the air. A heavy wooden beam collapsed suddenly from above, narrowly missing Luke and Charlie, but pinning Owen beneath its weight. Owen cried out in pain, trapped and unable to move. The group froze momentarily, their gazes locked onto the injured man. Wallace hesitated, torn between his duty to protect the others and his moral responsibility to the prisoner. Sam immediately moved forward, urgency clear on his rugged face. "We can't leave him," he said firmly, beginning to lift the heavy debris. Owen, wincing and grimacing, stared incredulously at Sam, his voice strained with confusion and bitter resignation. "Why help me, after all I've done?" "Because it's the right thing to do, Owen," Sam replied steadily, his words filled with a quiet strength born of forgiveness. "It's never too late to find your humanity." Luke placed Charlie gently beside Grace and Max, quickly joining Sam and Wallace in lifting the fallen beam. It was heavy and stubbornly embedded, each second ticking by with mounting danger. Grace shielded Charlie protectively, whispering comforting words amidst the howling storm. Suddenly, Max stirred beside Charlie, his intelligent eyes focusing on Owen, sensing the desperate struggle unfolding before him. Gathering every ounce of strength left within his battered body, Max pushed himself up slowly and limped determinedly toward the trapped man. Everyone paused, holding their breath, watching the injured dog approach the person who had caused him unimaginable pain. Owen, trapped and vulnerable, watched Max approach with wary eyes, memories of past cruelty flashing through his mind. He braced himself, fully expecting retribution. But Max surprised everyone, gently pressing his warm body against Owen, providing warmth and comfort amidst the storm's bitterness. Owen's eyes widened in shock, disbelief filling his features. This simple act of forgiveness from the dog he had once tortured so cruelly broke through the last remnants of bitterness encasing his heart. Tears filled Owen's eyes for the first time in years, falling silently onto Max's fur. "I'm sorry," he whispered brokenly. "I'm so sorry." Sam, Luke, and Wallace, touched by Max's extraordinary forgiveness, found renewed strength, finally lifting the heavy beam away from Owen's injured legs. Carefully, they helped Owen to his feet, supporting his weight between them. Sheriff Wallace nodded solemnly, recognizing the profound moment. "Let's get everyone home safely," he ordered gently. Emerging cautiously from the barn, the group trudged through the thickening snow, visibility near zero. Just then, a pair of bright headlights cut through the blizzard, revealing Jenna Martinez's sturdy SUV approaching carefully. Liam Harper jumped out first, immediately moving to help guide the others into the warmth and safety of the vehicle. Jenna, practical and compassionate as ever, quickly tended to Owen's injuries with practiced efficiency. As Jenna wrapped Owen's injured leg securely, the hardened man stared silently out the window, haunted eyes reflecting newfound remorse. Owen's features had visibly softened, the bitterness fading, replaced by quiet introspection. Jenna placed a comforting hand on his arm, sensing his genuine regret. "Everyone deserves a chance at redemption," she reassured softly. Back at the foster home, warmth and light filled every corner, a stark contrast to the bitter cold outside. Charlie and Max settled comfortably near the fireplace, the boy carefully wrapping a soft blanket around his canine companion. Luke and Grace watched tenderly, their hearts filled with profound relief and gratitude. Owen sat quietly, subdued yet peaceful under Sheriff Wallace's watchful gaze. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to truly reflect on his actions, silently promising himself he would dedicate the rest of his life to atoning for his mistakes. Jenna sat beside Sam, her quiet strength and compassion comforting him greatly. Liam observed everyone thoughtfully, inspired by the courage, kindness, and forgiveness he'd witnessed. He quietly resolved that one day he too would work to protect animals, turning past trauma into a meaningful purpose. Later, as the blizzard gradually subsided into gentle snowfall, Charlie and Max moved together to the large living room window. The little boy pressed his small hand gently against the cold glass, fascinated by the falling snowflakes drifting gently now, rather than fiercely. Max leaned against Charlie affectionately, calm and contented in the warmth of friendship and family. Charlie smiled softly, whispering to his loyal friend, "It's beautiful now, isn't it, Max?" Max gazed peacefully outside, tail thumping gently against the floor, the reflection of snowflakes twinkling gently in his wise, forgiving eyes. Luke and Grace watched from a distance, their hearts swelling with quiet pride at Charlie's bravery and Max's extraordinary spirit. Sam, Jenna, Liam, and Sheriff Wallace stood nearby, each silently reflecting on the profound lessons learned during the ordeal: redemption, courage, and the enduring power of compassion. In that quiet, peaceful moment, as gentle snowflakes danced silently outside, the darkness had finally receded, replaced by light, hope, and new beginnings. Charlie and Max, united by bravery, love, and forgiveness, promised a future filled with happiness and warmth. Together, they gazed outside, certain in the knowledge that no storm, however fierce, could ever break the powerful bond that held them forever. In life, we often face storms that seem impossible to overcome. Just like Charlie and Max, sometimes the greatest strength comes not from anger or revenge, but from forgiveness, courage, and love. Remember, it's never too late to change, to forgive, and to start again. If this story touched your heart, please share it with those you love. Comment "Amen" below if you believe in the power of second chances. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. May God bless each and every one of you watching today, guiding you through life's storms and filling your hearts with kindness and hope. Amen.